and allowing yourself to really recognize through intense pleasure moments that you matter and that this life matters. Hello, you sexy and gorgeous creature. Welcome to Practice Intimacy. This is the place to be to learn all about love, sex, and how to have the best relationships you possibly can. What we're talking about today is sacred sexuality. Recently, I've had so many people who are healing wounds around growing up in cultures that told them sex was bad, sex was scary, sex is sinful. So much of the religious trauma that people experience around sexuality is based on puritanical thoughts that said pleasure, sexuality, sensuality is all sinful, and people were incredibly suspicious of it, especially female sexuality. When it came to women being turned on, that was not an acceptable thing in pretty much any of the major religions. You are only allowed to be sexual in monogamous married relationships, preferably if you're procreating, nothing else. And that truly is the history of most people's experience of sexuality, only because the big religions have touched all corners of the world. That kind of purity culture thinking has touched almost every corner of the world. And so many of us need to undo those messages in order to be able to reach the kind of deeply satisfying sexual experiences that are your birthright. Your body, this beautiful organism that you have been given, is capable of experiencing so much turn on and excitement and arousal. And it can be not only for your good, but this is something that could actually heal our planet. I love the way Emily Nagoski talks about sex being the thing that could help heal our planet, because when she talks about it, she's saying things like, when we're deeply connected to our sensuality, when we understand not only the unbelievable importance of feeling your body and being connected to your body in a way that is loving and healing and feels good, it becomes easy to do that for other people, for other beings like animals and plants, for this whole entire planet. And so I genuinely believe that sexual energy could help us heal our planet. It's just a matter of getting there. And so what role does sacred sexuality play in this? First of all, let me give you a definition of sacred sexuality. It is simply any kind of sexuality that brings in a spiritual practice. If you are connecting your spirituality, your faith in something greater than yourself, whether that's some form of God, whether that's love, whether that's universe, whether that's a belief that this whole entire life matters, whatever your experience of spirituality and something greater than yourself is, tying that into your sexual practices, tying that into your sexual experiences, and allowing yourself to really recognize through intense pleasure moments that you matter and that this life matters. How do you actually do that? That becomes the question. People do this in many ways. One thing that is important to know about sex is that it actually has the potential to be a transcendent experience already. Built into the neurochemical experience of sexuality is the potential that you might have what feels like a spiritual awakening, where you feel connected to all things, or you feel like you are simply love, or you feel like your body has melted into an energy state and is connected to the rest of the energy in the universe. That is possible during peak pleasure because the chemicals that are released in the brain are actually really similar to the kind of chemicals that would be released during a psychedelic experience. So understand that already there's this potential that you could have a spiritual awakening just by having a real good sexy time in bed. And the way that you can allow that to be a support to your spiritual experience is to intentionally bring your spirit into any kind of sexual experience where you're holding yourself with love and kindness. You're holding your partner with love and kindness. You're experiencing yourself and this other person with a felt sense of, you could say, divinity, almost like this is a portion of the divine, whatever the divine means to you. The way that I experience this, because I am a Tantra practitioner, is everything is sacred, from the trees to this body to you watching this video to the building I'm in. Part of me does not want to believe that, because I can be a little like against modern stuff and want to go back to the roots of just being indigenous peoples. But in Tantra, everything is sacred. So even this building, even the like technology that's lighting me up as I talk to you through a camera, all of it is sacred. All of it is part of universal consciousness, God consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And so for me, the practice is just holding that in mind as I'm being sexual with myself, like really thinking of my body as truly being a temple. And for you, if you're doing this, like holding that intention of what would it be like to honor and worship my body, as though recognizing divinity inside of yourself. What would it be like to do that with your partner if you worshiped their body as though you were recognizing the divinity inside of them? There is a really simple Tantra practice that you could bring into your sex life in order to start doing this. And you could do it by yourself, but you could do it with your partner as well. If you're doing it by yourself, then you'd be looking in a mirror. If you're doing it with your partner, then you sit together, looking into each other's eyes for 5 minutes before you actually have sex. And during those 5 minutes, all you're doing is attempting to see them as divine, attempting to see them as a spiritual being, almost like a being of golden light, a soul trapped inside, not even trapped, but like shining through this organic body, shining through this human form. And as you see them from that space, and then taking that into your sexual experience, continuing to hold that thread of spirituality, it becomes a more sacred way of being sexual, rather than kind of like, it's not a bad thing to have sex any other way, to just be in like pleasure and enjoyment and can't think of words right now, pleasure, enjoyment, and almost like a totally mundane experience of sex. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still fun. It's still exciting. It still feels good. If you add this layer of bringing a recognition of something greater than yourself into the experience, it can add a depth to sex that might not be there otherwise. It can add a layer of meaning about who you are, who your partner is, and how much you matter in this world that really, in a lot of ways, like, none of us actually matter. Not really. Not in the grand scheme of things. Like, we're ants. All of us. All of us are ants. And one day the sun is going to blow up and none of this actually matters. Like, that's true. It's actually really relaxing in some ways, because be a bit more free, be a bit more liberated, do what you want. The sun's going to blow up anyway. None of this matters. Like, go be free. Don't hurt people, but be free. And at the same time, you, beautiful human who I'm talking to right now, you are only going to exist one time. And that does matter. Your experience matters. And so bringing a quality of intention and sacredness to everything you do, including sex, especially sex, because it has that power to be so transformative, it is going to completely change your life. It has the capability to help you feel so whole and settled inside of who you are that you almost can like float through this life feeling good amid all the chaos, because there will always be chaos. And sometimes you won't feel great, but holding even that with a certain amount of composure and wisdom and love, because you know that you're deeply connected to this life and that you can always come back to that feeling of connection. Okay, please ask me questions. If this is like confusing, if you want more information, even if you're like, that's a whole bunch of BS, ask me questions. I would love to hear your perspective. That'd be great. Remember to like this video, hit the thumbs up button if you would, please. Remember to follow this channel for more content like this, and I will see you next time.